Pronounced, defined, used in lexical dispatch. Chattel, noun, a piece of personal property that you can move from one place to another. Exculpate, verb, exculpation, to prove that someone is not guilty of criminal charges. Acquit, exonerate. He was allowed to trade in movable chattels, but he could not sell real estate. I want to know whether it is intended to include chattels, fittings, fixtures, furniture, objects of art, and so on. If a husband goes bankrupt, can the woman retain her goods and chattels in the house as she can if he goes bankrupt now? The modern wife is considered more of an equal partner and helpmate than a chattel or a housekeeper. In such cases, the sheriff might be ordered to seize the chattels of defaulting regarders. Wheat is one of the foremost crops that have the chattels of antioxidation against the oxidation of important biomolecules such as membrane lipids, protein, and DNA. The analogy works even better if, like modern feminists, you view wifedom as a form of chattel slavery. People can be channeled into wage slavery or chattel slavery by law and finance. The analogy between the status of the working classes and that of chattel slaves was common in socialist discussions during these years. The debate centers upon the questions of whether or not one can attribute chattel slavery primarily to color prejudice or to economics. Your Bible refers to me and my wife by virtue of being women as nothing more than chattel property. Contracts for the sale of land, unlike most contracts for the sale of chattels, are within the jurisdiction of equity. Defenders of technology point to the lack of financial resources and exculpate technology from criticism. This is why in prisons, sex offenders in general and child abusers in particular are typically sectioned off for their own safety from their fellow inmates who exculpate themselves by victimizing others. Almost 20 years later, he is still trying to exculpate himself from one of the biggest blunders in the history of jurisprudence. You aren't permitted to set traps for people on your property, and having a fence does not exculpate you for harm caused even if someone is trespassing. But if you don't process a piece of biological material properly, you've lost, or at least run the risk of losing, that piece of evidence as something which potentially can either inculpate or exculpate any particular person. But the same technology that will exculpate people today is also being used to put people stopped by the police into genetic databases. Texas is unlike many other states where any act arising from mental illness would exculpate the defendant. Doubters might take a moment to recall that race and gender arguments have been used in some famous recent court cases to exculpate the violent deeds of the accused. Forgiveness responds to contrition. It neither ignores the wrong nor exculpates the perpetrator. Blacks seek acknowledgement of their victimization, while whites seek exculpation from the accusation of bigotry.